Common Council meeting on Tuesday, September 19th, 2023 at 6:30. Roll call, all aldermen and women are present. Please join with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, with that, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Alderman Benning seconded that. Any questions or concerns on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, under mayor's business, I have two quick things. One is just an update to make sure the community knows what we're doing with the city administrator search process. So currently where we are, we have an 8-step process that the council approved last week. We are currently in stage 1, which is the posting and recruitment, moving into then a potential, Emily, our HR director, did I say that wrong? ACA HR director, yes, sir. We'll be previewing and pre-screening applicants. Then on October 23rd, the Personnel Committee, the City Council President, and the Mayor will review the semifinalists to bring that to the Council for consideration. The Council will review them the following week on October 30th, and then the finalist interviews will be on November 13th. The Council will select that evening if all goes well, and then we will begin contractual approval within a desire or aspiration to approve that contract and make that offer by the beginning of December so that we can onboard in January. And then the other piece is I just want to make sure the council knew there's a proclamation for this month. September 15th through October 15th is the beginning of the National Hispanic Heritage Month, Esperanza, and all 5 of the schools in Port Washington will get a copy of this to celebrate the Hispanic contributions to both the city of Port Washington, past and present. That's what I have for tonight. Under officers and staff reports, you got your monthly reports from each of the staff members. And the only thing I had for myself in here as a request was for Rob. So Roger, if you wouldn't mind passing that on. He's got the Upper Lake Park planning that the University of Wisconsin-Madison capstone project has identified Port Washington as one of their projects for the Upper Lake Park. And if possible, if he could figure out a way to include myself and some council members in that study, that'd be fantastic. I would just hate for a bunch of great undergraduates at UW-Madison to redesign our park in a way that none of us like. So, yeah, and I hope the Kobach Shack turns out well. Anybody who grew up in Port ice skating at Kobach knows that that place has a special place in our heart, so that's being remodeled. Any other questions or thoughts on the officer and staff reports? None? All right, then at this time we'll move into public comments. If there's anyone who has public comments tonight, remember you are limited to 3 minutes. If you need more time or want an agenda considered, to make sure to send that to myself and our city administrator. Are there any public comments at this time? Any public comments at this time? Any public comments? All right, seeing none, we're gonna move into 8A from the Plan Commission. I'm gonna call this public hearing to order. Notice was given that this public hearing for tonight is to consider a request to rezone approximately 96 acres of land located north of Carroll Lane and west of Stonecroft Drive from AG agricultural to RS3 single-family detached residence for the purpose of future residential development. Are there any speakers in favor? Are there any speakers in favor? Are there any speakers in favor? Any speakers against? Any speakers against? Speaking against, then if you can step to the podium. Turn on the microphone and then make sure to state your name and address.
We good with this? James Perez, I'm at 2214 Stonecroft Drive in Grafton. Speaking against this proposal, in that what we've received so far by way of notification is simply enough notification to attend this meeting. I'd like to know what it is that the decision makers have looked at by way of studies that are relied upon in making this decision. concerning the development's effects on air and water quality, watershed function, generation of waste, extent and quality of wildlife habitat, and human health. Also would like to know if they've considered the effect that this would have in creating what are known as heat islands, domes of warmer air over urban suburban areas that are caused by the loss of trees and shrubs and the absorption of more heat by pavement, buildings, and other sources. Heat islands can negatively affect local, regional, and global climate as well as air quality. Also thought it to be somewhat disingenuous in the notice that we did get in that what is it being planned, or apparently are no plans? If there are, they're not being told to us at this time. How can you undertake making this kind of a decision without there being some reasonable expectation as to what's going to transpire? The only hint we got, I think, is the notion that they are looking to seek approval for what's called RS3, single-family detached residence. I looked it up. I'm not quite sure if I'm accurate on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but RS3, I think, is 3.6 units per acre, and there are other RS designations that could have been looked at, RS1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, based on density. So given the fact that we're talking 96 acres, we're talking about a quarter-size lot, we're looking at close to potentially 400 residences. That seems like a lot, seems like a long time, a lot of development. A lot of people at Stonecroft who are now getting elderly, more so by the day like me, putting up with living to live the rest of their lives in a construction zone. And that pretty much sums up my negative presentation.
That was timed very well. Thank you. Other speakers against? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the hearing. That moves us into agenda item 8A2. There is a subject, the ordinance request to rezone 2 parcels totaling 96 acres of land located west of Stonecroft Drive and north of Cara Estates, subdivision from AG to RS3, single-family detached residence district. Belgium Farms LLC by Anze Development Corporation is the applicant. This is the second reading. The Common Council is being asked to rezone approximately 96 acres of land located west of Stonecroft for the purposes of single-family detached residence district. The staff recommends to approve the rezoning request as presented. I'm going to turn it over to you, Bob, and then I've got some comments from Planning Commission that I can add to the questions raised by the gentleman.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is showing up on the screen for identification. It is, as noted in the title, approximately 96 acres of land. It's located west of Stonecroft Drive, north of Cara Lane. This land was taken into the city limits from a previous development that property was annexed into the city, but the development fell through prior to permanent zoning taking place. The current owners and applicants of the property have requested zoning to the property of RS3 single-family residential. This was before the Plan Commission at its August meeting and was unanimously recommended for the council to approve. The intent, according to the applicant's information, is to rezone the property. It is without a formal development, and none is proposed at this time, but the rezoning is reflective of the city's future land use map of medium-density residential, and in accordance with that, the recommendation was to approve that rezoning to RS3 as reflected in the comprehensive plan. Public hearing notices did go out, and I received one question of interest and then neither comments for or against on this matter. And reflecting the Plan Commission recommendation and the future land use plan, staff recommends approval.
And I would add, and I appreciate the questions asked from the gentleman from the Stonecroft area. There were many things taken into consideration at the Planning Commission meeting. And one of the desires of the city of Port Washington in our future development is that a 96-acre parcel like this would have more dense development on it than larger homes. So the Anze company and Anze developers were willing to work with the city on that. Also, in regards to like waste, et cetera, that area would be by ordinance now in the city of Port Washington would have to have sewer and water run out there before they could develop. So it would not be a dense area with holding tanks and septic. Okay? And then if you have other questions, please reach out to Mr. Harris. He can address any of those pieces. And our current practice when we have new developments like this is we invite the neighbors in for a pre-screening and a preview conversation as they are developing their plans so that we can proactively anticipate those components. And it's been very effective the last few years. So nothing will happen in the dark. The neighborhood will get invitations to ensure that you can participate in the conversations. And we've made adjustments based upon public feedback in the past in Alderman Benning's ward specifically as we did expansion there with roads, et cetera. So you'll have the opportunity, especially as residents of the city, to have voice in that. All right, so any other questions or concerns for Bob?
I can't recall, I had asked this last meeting, but do you recall when Ian had mentioned how much of this is wetland that would not be able to be developed on?
There's a big chunk,
Right, northwest corner.
where you see the ponds and then the retention.
Alderman Plattner, you can see on the land use map, the dark green is a primary environmental corridor, and then the more of the olive green is more isolated open space. And then there are identified wetlands, both on the DNR map and just simply identified overall. And then once any development comes through, it will have to be in reaction to those environmental corridors and those wetlands.
Any other questions or concerns? Otherwise, I'd be entertaining motion. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, just quickly, I'm curious, when the Plan Commission looked at this, I realize I don't want to put the cart before the horse, as it were, but I noticed one thing here is that the only access there by the highway is the Stonecroft Drive to get into there. Did you guys talk about that at all, if it would be developed
No.
at this point? I realize I'd be putting.
Yeah,
the
no,
cart
that
before the horse.
we'd be waiting for we'd be waiting for all kinds of stuff from the developer before we would do that, and Mr. Harris would be working with them in advance.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the process-wise, it's been pretty nice. The fire chief and the police are consulted and all that stuff as they're developing it, so. Great question. All right, is there a motion of any nature?
Move to approve staff's recommendation.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Second. Motion and seconded. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. That moves us into new business, which is consideration and possible action on a request from the United States Army Corps of Engineers for right of entry to the North U.S. Breakwater for access from the former Jackson Street right-of-way from June 1st through August 31st of 2024. The issue is that the city, if we execute an agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for right-of-way, or ROE, for work on the North Federal Breakwater, basically for next summer. Staff recommends approval of the proposed right-of-way agreement. I'm guessing, Roger, you have an update for us on this?
Yes. So this is a project that the city has been trying to get the Army Corps to do for a while to help protect our investments in the gateway portion of the breakwater and even the extended portion. So my understanding from the Army Corps is that they plan on using this access. This would basically be their second choice for access. They're planning on shipping all their armor stone down via barge from Manitowoc. So if lake levels get real low, then they would be using this access. So
And we just have to give them the right-of-way? Like, is that a United States government thing?
yes, since it's our private property, your motion tonight, if you
Okay.
would give them rights to access. They will also work with the Newport Shores condominium, let them know what's going on, and make sure that their property is protected.
So really, this is a contingency piece as a secondary option for them if they can't move stuff by water.
That's correct.
Okay. Council?
Thank you, Mayor. Before the council acts, I just want to make sure that what is in your packet in terms of the right of entry document, that was the preliminary draft, and I believe the Director of Public Works emailed to you, I'm not sure when, if it was late last week or yesterday, but prior to tonight's meeting, a slightly revised draft of that document, emphasis on minor changes that I was surprised, frankly, the federal government agreed to insert, all to the benefit of the city, in my opinion. So any action should be with respect to the later submitted document and not to the one in the packet. Roger, that's your understanding as well?
It is.
Yep. Thank you.
So Roger,
Roger.
'cause that's what I thought he said. That would have been pretty good. All right.
I'm not that good.
All right. Any other questions or concerns on the request?
Just a
Mr.
comment.
Sigwart? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Benning.
I've been talking to Rob because this will be during the 4th of July and Fish Day timeframe. And we anticipate them tying up the barges on Coldock Park like they do and having fires. So we're working on that as time gets closer.
Yeah, excellent. And collaborating.
Just FYI.
Thank you for that. Mr. Sigwart?
Roger, this would be prior to the heavy work at the filtration plant, right? I mean, there'll be, the electrical work will be going on, but heavy work won't, right?
Yes, it depends on how quickly they get started. I'm expecting a generator install to occur during June at the water plant, and they'll start with some of the south side moving utilities. So we'll likely be getting it if they wait till August. I'm sure at that point in time they'll be likely be excavating and doing some of the work on the south side of the plant. So we have put our engineer on notice from the water plant that, please identify this project, that they'll have to coordinate with the Army Corps contractor in that area for this duration.
And I'm also assuming the project of redoing our lighthouse will be worked out within there too. All right. Is there, yeah, right. All right, so is there a motion to accept the recommendation from staff?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or concerns on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. With that, that brings us to the end of the meeting. If there are any other public comments or appearances? All right, seeing none, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned.